Terima kasih banyak Yang Mulia Duta Besar. Excellencies, I stand before you today with a deep sense of injustice and determination. Injustice because I have served this Council with rigor and in good faith, and for doing so, I have faced relentless personal threats, insults, and reprisals. Determination because in spite of all this, I remain steadfast in my mission to bear witness, to speak the truth, and to reject complicity in this time of unremitting criminality. Today I present the findings of my 8th report, the 5th documenting the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people. Its findings highlight a hallmark of this genocide, Israel's widespread and systematic use of torture, alongside the creation of a torturous environment against Palestinians. I unequivocally condemn the torture committed by all actors, including also by Palestinian armed groups on and after 7th October 2023. However, this report focuses on the use of torture in the context of the ongoing genocide, thus on the actions by Israel as the occupying power, as my mandate demands. Between October 2023 and January 2026, Israeli forces arrested more than 18,500 Palestinians, including children, especially if they were doctors, journalists, or humanitarians. Nearly 100 of them died in custody. 4,000 remained forcibly disappeared. Thousands detained without charge, held in inhuman conditions, beaten, shackled, sexually abused, denied medical care, starved, raped. Israel has effectively been given a license to torture Palestinians because most of your government, your ministers have allowed it. It is thanks to the courage of torture survivors and the Palestinians and Israeli NGOs who helped document their inferno if the truth has today reached this room. Hence, I have decided to lend my voice to them, to the survivors. Quote, on the 4th day in prison, an Israeli soldier threw food on the floor, which was only Lebanese, yelling, "Eat off the ground, you Hamas horse, just like animals," end of quote. Quote, the assaults were violent with batons and boots, leaving prisoners bleeding on the ground. They would beat prisoners, force them to insult each other, and even howl like animals, end of quote. Quote, they unleashed police dogs on us again, allowing them to tear into our flesh. One dog attacked a fellow detainee and started mauling his genitals. He bled to death in my arms. A doctor shielded in a cage examined him from a distance and said, "Throw him outside," end of quote. Quote, one of the soldiers raped me by violently inserting a wooden stick into my anus. After about a minute, he removed it and inserted it again more forcefully, while I screamed loudly. Then he forced me to open my mouth and lick the stick, end of quote. Quote, they put me on a metal table, pressed my chest and head against it, cuffed my hands to the end of the bed, and pulled my legs apart forcefully. I felt a penis penetrating my anus and a man raping me. I started screaming, and they beat me on my back and head while I was blindfolded. I felt the man who was raping me ejaculate inside my anus. I kept screaming and being beaten, and I could hear a camera, so I believed they were filming me. I cannot describe what I felt. I wished for death every moment, end of quote. In Israel, authorities openly boast about the sadistic treatment inflicted on Palestinian detainees, while journalists and other civilians have been granted access to witness and even film their humiliation. Officials caught on camera sodomizing a Palestinian detainee with a knife are publicly celebrated. The criminal charges against them were recently dropped. And my report also shows that torture extends far beyond the prison walls in what can only be described as a torturous environment imposed by Israel across the entire occupied Palestinian territory. The continuous decades-long destruction of homes, hospitals, schools and infrastructure, combined with forced displacement, starvation, mass bombing, pervasive surveillance and arbitrary detention, has transformed Palestinian life into a continuum of physical and mental suffering. Quote, "Our brains can't process it anymore," said, end of quote, said a Gaza resident, quote, "The dead bodies, the explosion, it's too much. We're like the Walking Dead. Aid is scarce. The constant buzz of the drone is unbearable. You don't understand. It eats at my bones," end of quote. The philosopher Jean Améry, himself a survivor of torture during the Holocaust, once wrote, quote, "Whoever had succumbed to torture can no longer feel at home in the world," end of quote. Indeed, torture does to the individual what genocide does to a group as such. It destroys the conditions that make life meaningful, stripping away human dignity, leaving empty shells of being where humanity once stood. The Palestinian people today, whether in detention, under bombardment in Gaza, terrorized by armed criminals in uniform, or settler squads in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, are enduring the pain of such intentional destruction, including those in the diaspora. This reality cannot be understood outside its historical context. From the earliest years of the State of Israel, depriving Palestinians of all their rights and freedoms has been a central instrument of Israel's domination, sustained by laws, institutions, and the normalization of dehumanizing rhetoric against the Palestinians. Since October 2023, torture has effectively become state policy, sustained by a torturous culture that is socially produced, politically defended, and publicly normalized. The proposed bill on the death penalty for Palestinian detainees marks yet another dangerous escalation. I have therefore recommended that those responsible, including senior officials such as Itamar Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, and Israel Katz, be investigated and, where warranted, that arrest warrants be issued. Excellencies, the testimonies that I and many others are documenting are not just tragic stories of suffering. They are evidence of atrocity crimes targeting the totality of the Palestinian people, across the totality of the occupied Palestinian land, through a totality of criminal conduct. Hence, I concluded that genocide has become the ultimate form of torture, continuous, generational, collective. The way you respond to this abomination will be a test of our collective legal and moral responsibility. International law is unambiguous. Torture is absolutely prohibited in all circumstances, and so is genocide. Under both the Torture and the Genocide Conventions, all parties have the obligation to prevent, stop, and punish these crimes. The choice before you is stark. Either the prohibition of genocide and torture remains a binding legal norm. For it, Israel's leaders must be held accountable together with those who stand behind them, or it will stand exposed as an empty promise. And together with the millions who still believe in the universality of human rights, I say to you again, disregard for international law will not stop in Palestine. It is already unfolding from Lebanon to Iran, across the Gulf countries, and in Venezuela. And if left unchecked, it will spread far beyond. What is lost in Palestine will be lost to us all. Thank you.